Was there a guy named Jesus? I mean, a historical Jesus. Did Jesus exist historically? Was there a guy? I asked this question to Professor Francesca Stavrakopoulou, and of course, she answers it. And before she ended up earning all of her rewards and getting the skills that she has now in Hebrew Bible studies in the ancient Near East, running certain positions in the University of Exeter in the UK, I mean, she is a brilliant mind. She explored this question deeply, and today she answers it once and for all. But I do want to let everybody know, right now, she has been under fire by those who are misogynist in the world, and I want to say how we can help, how we can express that we appreciate her work is by simply buying her books. Her latest book, God and Anatomy. Don't forget to get you a copy. What are a few reasons you think a historical Jesus, because you started your research with this question, exist over the mythicist model, whatever model you want to put? Are there a few things in your head that make you go the direction there was probably a guy? And can you give us those examples?
Yeah, there was probably a guy so not the guy that's described or talked about in the Gospels. Certainly not the guy that's described or talked about in, some of the later Christian traditions and texts. There was probably a guy, and the only reason I say that is because of the relatively short period of time in between, and I'm kind of radical in a lot of ways, but I'm not that radical. So I think it's a relatively short period of time between the writings of, say, Paul, which are like mid-50s, and the likely execution that occurred. I reckon there was a guy who was executed. And my main reasons are probably a lot of the stuff that's said about John the Baptist, interestingly, I think that's trying to it makes sense to me that there was a John the Baptist type. We know there are lots of these kinds of figures wandering around. Honey, the circle drawer, is one of my favorites. He was like kind of this failed kind of figure. No, he wasn't failed. He was very popular. He was that, he had his methods, basically drawing circles and standing in them. But, the kind of John the Baptist Jesus thing, that looks to me like a massive kind of polemic as a way of trying to say, what's the relationship between these two figures? John the Baptist had his head cut off. This Jesus guy, was crucified. So you've got two kind of executed figures who have been brought together. That to me suggests that there's somebody is trying to reconcile these two popular kind of cult leaders. So it's that and the kind of the relatively early date of the Paul stuff. But Paul didn't meet the guy. Paul's very clear that he didn't meet the guy at all. So who knows? But whoever he was, I suspect that at the very least, there was probably a guy or maybe a series of guys or leaders, but, one of them was executed and it was devastating. I don't think he resurrected from the dead. Equally, I don't think that a lot of those reports of encountering Jesus after he's been crucified, I don't think they necessarily are indexing the idea that these people thought they'd seen a resurrected body. I think, this was, people encountered the dead and the shades of the dead all of the time in those cultures. So I don't see that as kind of proof of anything at all.
I agree.
So I kind of flip on that. Yeah, it's more probable than improbable that some guy existed and was executed. Probably had some kind of relationship with a kind of John the Baptist type figure. But beyond that, who knows?
So you wouldn't rest your soul on this? Oh,
yeah. I know.
Yeah, right? Okay.
I like gambling.
Yeah, I like to tell people that if you're wanting to make sure you don't go to hell, become a MythVision member of the YouTube channel or join the Patreon. Do you want to really risk it? I don't think you do. So please do so.